it's 9 p.m. in RTD. It's time to English New Edition for tonight headlines. We have the head of state presides over the 18th meeting of the Council of Ministers. For the international scene, opening in Dakar of the International Forum on Peace and Security in Africa. Welcome to our newsroom. Under the chairmanship of His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, President of the Republic, Head of Government, the 18th sessions of the Council of Ministers was held this Tuesday, 7 December 2021. The following texts were examined and approved: Ministry of Higher Education and Research, first issue, draft law on the ratification of the status of the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology. The purpose of the bill is to ratify the status of the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology, an intergovernmental organization created in 1983 as a special project of UNIDO. It has been fully autonomous since in 1994 and operates 46 state-of-the-art laboratories. It plays a key role in technology worldwide for excellence in research, training, and industrial technology transfer in order to contribute concretely to the achievement of global sustainable development. The organization's main instrument of action are advanced education through doctoral and postdoctoral fellowships, international scientific symposia, and courses, competitive science grants for the benefit of member of state, and technology transfer to industry for the productions of the biotherapeutic and diagnostic. Membership of the CGEP translate into the partnership to promote scientific learning and innovation through a unique technology and educational platform to advance the UN 2013 agenda, and in particular the MDG 9, and to benefit from its flagship extramural programs, fellowship, research grants, conferences, and courses. The accessions of our country to the status of the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology will allow the development and implementation of applications of genetic engineering and biotechnology, and especially to strengthen the technical and scientific potential of the Republic of Djibouti. Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development, second issue, draft law on the ratification of the Protocol of Cooperation in case of maritime emergency. The purpose of this bill is to ratify the regional protocol on technical cooperation on the borrowing and transfer of expertise, technician equipment, and materials in case of a maritime emergency. For our country, the issue of the marine environment and its protection is of paramount importance. Indeed, our country is at the center of a dense maritime traffic and commercial exchanges between three continents, which constitutes a formidable asset, but which also exposes us to the risk of maritime accidents that could attack our marine ecosystem, with the impacts that could be considerable for tourism and fishing in our country. In the region, whatever the precautions taken, a major accident can happen at any time, and it is therefore necessary to have rapid and massive means of intervention to limit the impact of the disaster. It is with this in mind that this protocol establishes a legal framework to facilitate the process of regional cooperation and the transfer of expertise and equipment in the events of the maritime emergencies, in line with the commitment made when signing the 1982 Jeddah Convention. The member state of PERSGA wanted to broaden the means of combating pollution on the marine environment by strengthening national cooperation. This protocol aims to reduce, control all forms of pollution in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden by establishing a legal framework for inter-regional cooperation. Ministry of Infrastructure and Equipment draft decree confirming the acting Director General of the Port of Tadjoura in his function. Mr. Omar Hassan Omar is confirmed in his functions as Director General of the Port of Tadjoura. The fourth issue, draft order approving and making enforceable the 2022 provisional budget of the Djibouti Road Agency, the provisional budget of the Djibouti Road Agency, ADR, for the year 2022 is set up at 2.7 billion. This institution is responsible for implementing studies, constructions, maintenance, and repair work on the road network. In 2022, the Djibouti Road Agency intends to continue its activity, mainly the renovations and modernization of national roads and the rehabilitation of urban roads. Avenue 13, Avenue 26, and Sheikh Musa Road. In 2022, it is planned to acquire and install 3 material production machines to rehabilitate the road corridor, to work on urban road in new housing estates, and to carry out various works on behalf of public and private establishments. This draft budget will enable the agency to improve the state of the country's road infrastructure. The fourth issue draft order approving and making enforceable the 2022 provisional budget of the Djibouti Road Agency, the provisional budget of the Djibouti. These institutions mainly the renovations and modernizations of the national road, install 3 machines to rehabilitate on behalf of public. This draft budget will enable the agency to improve the state of the country's road infrastructure. The Ministry of City, Urbanism and Housing, the issue 5 draft orders approving the 2020 budget estimate of the Urban Rehabilitation and Social Housing Agency. The provisional budget for the 2022 fiscal years of the Urban Rehabilitation and Social Housing ARULOS is set up at 2.8 billion with a net result of 644 million in 2022. The agency plans to continue work on several projects. These include the North Pika 12 servicing project, the development of servicing and land reserves for the 840 apartment project, the development and servicing of the land subdivisions to the east of the University of Djibouti, the servicing project for mesh 3 of the prevention sites, and the reconstruction project for burnout housing. The adoptions of this provisional budget 2022 will allow the agency to accomplish its mission, in particular the constructions of social housing, communication. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, a spokesperson of the government, has made a mission report on the visit of the President of the Republic to Qatar from 13 November to the 1st December 2021. During this working visit, the head of state had a fruitful meeting with the Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and the head of the state of the Emir of Qatar issued the necessary instructions to achieve an efficient pace of implementation of strategic partnerships and extended to all sectors of economic and social activities between the two countries. He also reported on his participation in the 8th high-level seminar on peace and security in Africa held from 2 to 4 December 2021 in Oran. The Minister of Women and Family reported on her participation by video conference in the inaugural high-level conference for men on the elimination of violence against women and girls in Africa, and the Arab League meeting held respectively on 25 November 2021 in Kinshasa and 29 November 2021 in the United Arab Emirates. The Minister of Trade and Tourism reported on his participation in the 37 sessions of the OIC Standing Committee for Economic and Commercial Cooperation, which was held from 26 November 2021 in Istanbul. The Minister Delegate in charge of decentralization reported on his working visit to France from 21 to 27 November 2021. The President of the Djibouti Parliament, Mohammed Ali Hamed, received by the President of the Shura Council of the Saudi Arabia, the President of the Shura Council of Saudi Arabia, Sheikh Dr. Abdullah bin Mohammed bin Ibrahim Al-Sheikh, received the Speaker of the National Assembly, Mr. Mohammed Ali Hamed, and the accompanying delegations in response to unofficial invitations from His Excellency, the President of the Shura Councils of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. During the talks, the chairmen of the Shura Council of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia explained the successive developments the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is going through in the light of the Kingdom's vision for 2013 and the resulting qualitative leap and development project. He also explained it to the Speaker of the National Assembly of Djibouti the mechanisms of the Shura Councils and its role in the legislative systems in the kingdom. For his part, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Mohammed Ali Ahmed, highlighted the depth of the distinguished relations between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on his countries which are experiencing continuous development and prosperity, noting that the deep relations experienced by the two countries come an embodiment of the ardors and interests of the leader of the two brotherly countries. The Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmed Roble Abdullah, launched this morning at Sheraton Hotel a national validation workshop on the HIV/AIDS testing strategy and the combined strategy organized in collaboration with the World Health Organization, UNAIDS, and UNDP. Satisfactory results have been recorded thanks to joint effort in the fight against HIV/AIDS. Thus, HIV/AIDS prevalence in the general population has fallen from 2.9% in 2002 to 1.1% in 2020, reductions of 62% in 18 years, and an annual reductions of 3.4% in the 15 and 49 age group. The combined prevention strategy is a recommended approach for joint fight against HIV, sexual transmitted infections, as well as opportunistic infections, in this case tuberculosis. At the same time, the HIV testing strategy was also updated and represents one of the main pillars of the global technical strategy for accelerating the response to HIV developed by the joint United Nations program on HIV/AIDS, facilitating by WHO experts. The workshop brought together doctors from health facilities, representatives of several ministerial departments, and of the United Nations system. In his speech, the Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmed Roble Abdullah, stressed the importance of creating demand for testing and encouraging to know their HIV status while respecting the principle of confidentiality, equity, gender equality, and human rights. As part of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, the Minister of Women and Family, Muna Usman Aden, honored with her presence the networks of women associations of PICA 12 called L and L in the afternoon of 5 December 2021, accompanied by the representative of the United Nations Population Fund office in Djibouti, Ms. Aisha Ibrahim, and officially from the ministry and UNFPA. The minister received a warm welcome from women and young girls in this area. The objective of this meeting, organized by the ministry with the support of the UNFPA at the headquarters of full associations, was to raise awareness in the community about violence against women, and in particular against young girls, such as female genital mutilation. The discussions and exchanges allow the minister and her close collaborator to inquire about the problems to which families are exposed in the face of social evils. A high-level meeting on the cross-border resilience program, commonly known as Cluster 4 or DKIL cluster, spread over 3 countries, Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Somalia, took place this morning at Sheraton Hotel. The meeting was chaired by the Secretary General of the Ministry of Agriculture, Ibrahim Elmi, and the Executive Secretary of IGAD, Mr. Workne Gebeyehu, and was attended by the Minister of State of the Ethiopian Agriculture, Dr. Fikru Regassa, and the Minister of Agriculture and Forestry of Somalia, Mr. Mohammed Adam Muallim. The IGAD Drought Resilience and Sustainability Initiative was developed by IGAD and member states of the strategy to end drought-related emergencies by developing development programs for resilience to 2010-2011 drought by focusing on vulnerable communities. The programs prioritizes cross-border
a lot of direct meetings and exchanges. And since we didn't meet before, let me give you a short introduction. My name is Günther Meyer. I'm working for GIZ since March last year as the senior advisor at IGAD and also as the person in charge of the resilience program SKIDA with IGAD. By profession, I'm an economist, and since a while, a proud second grandfather. Thank you.
Listen to the Ethiopian Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Fikru Regasa, and Somalian Minister of Agriculture, Mohammed Adam Muallim.
On behalf of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Ministry of Agriculture, and myself, I extend my pleasure to be part of this adoption meeting on the development programs designed for the IGAD cluster for cross-border areas of Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Somalia. And it is indeed my privilege and honor to preside over the adoption of the important development programs aimed at enhancing the resilience capacities of vulnerable communities along the IGAD Cluster 4, which is also known as DICL Cluster of the three sister countries. Following the drought incidents occurred in 2010 and 11, the IGAD member countries, including Ethiopia, have made a considerable effort to build resilience capacities by designing comprehensive resilience building projects through the support of the different development partners. With this respect, the Ethiopian government has profoundly recognized that drought-prone communities that share the same ecosystem and the same challenge, and the interconnection through shared natural resources, regional socio-cultural interactions, and socio-economic transactions from cross-border trade and transboundary human and animal movements.
It is a great pleasure and honor to be here with you today and to join you on this crucial ministerial meeting to review a resiliency program for IGAD Cluster 4 that brings together all of us in this beautiful capital city of Djibouti. On behalf of the federal government of Somalia, I'm also very pleased to evaluate and endorse a resilience program document for the IGAD Cluster 4, DICL, that covers cross-border areas shared between Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Somalia. I'm especially delighted to see border participation from IGAD high-level ministerial meeting on IGAD member states of DICL cluster. As well as I'm truly appreciate the time, outstanding efforts and contributions made by the technical expertise, cross-border communities, national expertise, local government policy officials, and IGAD staff. I would like to take this opportunity to thank development partners who have also contributed for their technical and financial assistance towards the DICL Resiliency Program, enhancing resilience to drought and related disaster for communities in the DICL cluster, which is a comprehensive multi-million-dollar initiative for implementing over the 5 years.
Now listen to the Executive Secretary of IGAD, Worknege Beyuhu.
It is my pleasure to welcome you all, as I have said, to this special meeting which has been convened to receive, review, and endorse a set of resilience-enhancing proposals that have been formulated under the consultative framework of Idrisi. The uplift and lives and livelihoods of communities in the shared cross-border area between Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Somalia, commonly known as the Dikil Cluster or IGAD Cluster 4. The IGAD region had the past nearly 10 years been implementing a holistic, multi-sectorial and regional focused drought, resilience, and sustainable initiative, also known as Idrisi, whose mission and mandate is to build the resilience of communities to the impact and recurrent slow and sudden onset disasters. The Idrisi incurred in the decision of the Summit of Meetings of Heads of States and Governments held in December 2011 that resolved to adopt a collective approach to tackling drought and other ecological emergencies in our region. Our heads of states and governments further tasked IGAD to lead the way to this new frontier of cooperation with particular emphasis on regional and interstate coordination, especially in cross-border areas. In compliance to this edict by its top policy organ, IGAD embarked on formulating and driving a portfolio of resilience-building initiatives in cross-border areas.
The Secretary General of the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Ibrahim Almi, said in his speech that the IGAD Cluster 4 program aims to build the resilience of communities living in the Dikil clusters to droughts and related disasters. It will contribute to this objective by facilitating the development of a reliable, accessible and sustainable water supply, improving the resilience and productivity of the grazing systems that support livelihoods in the cluster, improving sustainable agricultural productivity and access to basic services, and reducing conflict and insecurity by targeting pastoral and agropastoral communities in the Dikil clusters, which is located on the common borders of Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Somalia. The Minister of Youth, Dr. Hibo Mumin Asowe, received in her office successively the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the People's Republic of China, His Excellency Hu Bin, and the new British Ambassador, His Excellency Joe McFall. The discussion is focused on the excellent relationship between the two countries, as well as China's consistent support to Africa in general and to Djibouti for an inclusive win-win partnership. After congratulating the minister for her appointment to the head such as an important department, the ambassador emphasized the 9 programs set out by the Chinese President Xi Jinping during the China-Africa Forum, which opens new prospects for cooperation for Djibouti and especially its youth. The minister, for her part, thanked her guests for his constant support and submit a number of projects for the promotion and development of the cultural industry, but also of youth, especially capacity buildings and the provision of the mini CDC in localities. The Minister of Youth received the new British Ambassador Joe McFall. The two state officials discussed the recent opening of the embassy in Djibouti, as well as the cooperation that is tentatively being established between the two countries. Joe McFall, who is an expert in organizational culture, emphasized at length the integration and inclusive approach based on cultural to understand a country, and assured the minister of her availability to accompany the ministry in its cultural policy. In the day of Monday, December 6, 2021, took place at Ar-Rahma the ceremony of awarding the attestations of Level 1 of Chinese language organized by the municipality of Balbala and the center Iteboka Ahmed, led by the association Dar es Salaam. This event, which is a first in Djibouti, gave a great opportunity to students who want to continue their studies in China to learn Chinese in Djibouti and thus go directly to university in China by gaining a year on their school curriculum. 23 students obtained their level 1 certificate and are committed to taking level 2. The ceremony was attended by the president of the municipality of Balbala, Idris Bashir, and the director of the center, Ite Boka, Ms. Boka, and the Djibouti National Corridor and the Pan-African coordinator and Pan-African Agency for the Promotions of the Made in Africa product, Mr. Ubad Nasser Ahmed, who received a certificate of appreciation for sponsoring this ceremony. The Minister of Budget organizes an opening ceremony of the 3 rounds of the negotiations for the preparations of a tax convention between Djibouti and France. On December 7, 2021, at the People's Palace took place a ceremony to open the 3 rounds of discussions to negotiate a double taxation agreement between Djibouti and France. The delegation of the French Ministry of Economy and Finance and Recovery was sponsored by Ms. Christelle Chatrion-Gomez, first councillors of the French Embassy, Ms. Gilles Petit de la Villion, and second councillor. The delegation was led by Mr. Florian De Filippo, head of the Bureau of the Directorate of Tax Legislation, accompanied by Ms. Lina Madaloni, Senior Inspectors of the International Tax Office, Anne-Lise Berhamadi of the International Tax Rules Offices, and Ms. Isabelle Cohen, Head of the Conventions Unit of the Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs. The Djibouti delegation was sponsored by Mr. Mohamed Ali Hassan, Secretary General of the Foreign Affairs, and Mr. Simon Mebratu, Secretary General of the Ministry of Budget, Mr. Mohamed Sikiye, Political Advisor to the Presidency of the Republic. The delegation was composed of Mr. Abdi Hussein Bidid, Head of the Tax Policy Unit, and Mr. Saeed Gele Darar, Director of Taxes, Mr. Hassan Mohamed Ige, Director of the Legislations of the Directorate General of Taxes, Mr. Mahad Mohamed Hassan, Head of the International Cooperation Department at the DGE, and Mr. Mahdi Absi Bouh, Director of Bilateral Relations at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. For his part, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mohamed Ali Hassan, has explained briefly the objectives of this meeting between executives and finance experts of the two countries, which was to prepare a double taxation agreement which will govern relations between our two countries in the field of taxation. This agreement will be negotiated and discussed in all partiality with the reciprocal concessions in a perfect balance in the best mutual interests of our countries, which have historical ties and a lasting friendship. The expected benefit for Djibouti will be significant in terms of investment flows. The head of the Djibouti delegation, Mr. Abdul Fattah Musa Are, head of the cabinet of the Ministry of Budget, described the different stage of the preparations process of this agreement, which began last March with virtual exchanges between the parties by means of telemeetings and video conferences. The third round of discussions will take place face-to-face and is taking shape today with a direct meeting between the two teams of tax experts from the two countries. In recent weeks, the Ministry of Trade and Tourism has intensified its file control operations in order to observe firsthand the evolutions of price of basic foodstuffs. The main objective of these operations is to ensure, on the one hand, the availability of foodstuffs, and on the other hand, the respect of prices approved by the Ministry of Trade. In this context, the control agents of the Ministry of Commerce will ensure the respect of these approved prices will catch spectacular speculator in flagrante delicto will immediately refer them to the justice systems for sanctions and penalties in accordance with the regulations in force. This Tuesday, December 7, the inspections took place in the Hayable districts, and inspectors noted unjustified prices increased by some traders to this effect. All the offending outlets were closed and the offenders were fined significant penalties. The 467th Brigade of the Gendarmerie has seen an increase in the number of complaints of extortionists in the same circumstances during the investigations, which was carried out with the professionalism and diligence. The investigator also discovered that the offenders were behind several burglary in residences in some of the districts. Most upmarket districts. In the end, the criminals' loot consisted of 30 mobile phones, 3 tablet, and 7 laptops of different brands, and 1 gold necklace, 3 gold earrings, and finally 3 gold bracelets. 11 individuals were apprehended as a perpetrator, co-authors, accomplices, and fences, and will be brought to justice to answer for their actions. Once again, the Gendarmerie is urging the population to be very vigilant when visiting places that are likely to encourage extortion of any kind. A fire broke out at 11:30 a.m. this morning in Balbala near Hayable Square. A dozen houses in Blank burned during this fire, according to the information of the officials of the civil protection. The fire was controlled thanks to the interventions of the firefighters of the fire station of Balbala and those located in the city. An investigation was opened to determine the origin of the fire, until now unknown. For the international scene, the impact of COVID-19 on the continent, cybersecurity, the fight against disinformation, terrorism, and climate change at the center of discussions at Dakar International Forum on Peace and Security in Africa, which opened on Monday, 6 December 2021, after a break due to the health crisis, inaugurated under the impetus of the President of the Republic of Senegal, Macky Sall. This forum is in 7th edition and is part of the reflections on ways to cope with the pandemic and its impact on security throughout the theme, the challenges of stability and emergence in Africa in a post-COVID-19 world, are topics that denote an optimistic bet on the future, according to the Senegalese president, who said in a speech that the appearance of a new variant in several countries reminds us that we are all exposed to the virus and not yet in the post-COVID-19 era, but the team also commits us to be resilient, determined, and combative. He insisted that the forum is also an opportunity for key decision makers and actors in peace and security on the continent to address the challenges of stability and emergencies in post-pandemic world by addressing issues related to the strategic empowerment of African countries, the consolidations and coordination and cooperation mechanisms, the promotion of good practices in governance, the fight against new threats, including cybersecurity and disinformation. And to close up this edition, Nobel Prize in Literature Abdulrazak Gurna received his prizes. The 2021 Nobel Prize in Literature was awarded to Abdulrazak Gurna on Monday in London by the Swedish ambassador. This is the first step before the ceremony in Stockholm, Sweden on 10 December, the anniversary of Alfred Nobel's death. Abdulrazak Gurna, 72-year-old, has been honored for his stories about the colonial and post-colonial era in East Africa and the plight of refugees. He is particularly opposed to the attitude of European government to immigration. The jury praised his uncompromising and empathetic accounts of the effects of colonialism and the fate of refugees caused between culture and continents. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.